Good morning, everyone. This is Jim Chastain with EasyPower. I'm the host for today's session. And before we introduce our guest speakers, as we are in the habit of doing, I'd like to run a few poll questions by the audience to make sure that we're on the right track for what you think you signed up for. Again, welcome, everyone. And the topic today is building information management and design systems. And so our poll questions around the topic of designing and what your preferences are in the current operations. So first question, what do you use most often for design? Again, there's no obligation or liability, but we would appreciate some feedback in terms of what you currently use and what floats your boat. Expect several late arrivals, so we may have a change in the mixture as we go along. But we do appreciate you all attending this morning. So it looks like we have a quorum. Let's give this another 5 seconds. Thank you. Here's how folks have weighed in. Looks like we have a good mixture, but a fairly lopsided result. And then the next question, what typically comes first in your design process? Let's see what your choices are here. I think in this day and age, we're all looking for ways to become more efficient and productive, and technology is usually the way to accomplish that. All right, we're close. We need another 10 seconds here to get over the quorum limit. Thank you. So here's how folks have weighed in on this. Pretty much heavily weighted towards the one-line drawing. And then finally, what do you currently use the tools for in your current mode? So we're getting close to our expectation as far as attendance. Looks like there's a little bit of a lag. Again, we appreciate your joining us today, and we appreciate your feedback on the topic. Looks like we have a quorum here. So let's share the results. All right. Well, again, thank you all for attending today. We very much have high expectations for the presentation. I'd like to turn it over to our presenters for today, Mr. Jeff Miller and Mr. Bowen Liu. Let me kind of hand the baton off to Jeff. Jeff, you're now in charge.
Thank you, Jim. Let me share my screen here. Can you see my screen?
Looks good.
Thank you. And thanks, Jim. Thanks to EasyPower for letting us present today. My name is Jeff Miller. I'm the manager of specifier channels at Schneider Electric in the US. With me today is Bowen Liu. Originally, we had Basam Amori presenting, but he had an emergency that took him away, so Bowen will be taking his place. Myself, I have had 30 plus years in the industry. I've been working at Schneider Electric for 7+ years. I was previously a consultant engineer for many years, a contractor, and a utility engineer in my past lives. Bowen currently works with the US Customer Software Group, and he'll be demoing some of the LayoutFAST product that we're going to show you today and some of the features. And he's been, well, actually, Bowen, I'll let you introduce yourself if you want to unmute for a second.
Sure. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, I've been with the company for almost 6 years. Dabble a little bit at the APC Secure Power branch, doing consulting work and selling UPS. Also did a little bit of inside sales at Square D. But I've been with the customer software LayoutFAST team for almost 2 years now. So really been enjoying working with LayoutFAST and supporting the BIM workflow.
So today, we want to talk kind of an introduction about BIM, and then kind of go over design automation using LayoutFAST, and we'll also talk about some of the other tools that are out there currently in the industry. And as I said, Bowen will begin giving a demonstration of LayoutFAST, not just what's been around in the tool for years, but some of the new features that have been released this quarter. So hopefully everybody is familiar with BIM. If you're not, maybe you haven't understood or learned about the whole concept of it. A lot of us, when we think about BIM, we think more of Revit and 3D models. But BIM was intended much more for the whole construction process. And when they laid out BIM, they laid it out in a framework, even though the capabilities weren't there yet. I remember years ago, back in the early 2000s and even in 2010, 2013 range, if you had a big enough model in Revit and you were using BIM and you had a lot of different disciplines and a huge project, it slowed down things quite a ways. And there weren't a lot of applications out there that you could plug into it to get some of these advanced capabilities out. In recent years, that's changed, and BIM can now be used for a lot more than just drawing a 3D model. So, as I said, most people are familiar with, Revit and almost like 3D CAD, and they may use it for some simple things, planning, looking for conflicts between disciplines, conduit, holes in walls, structural members, vents, lighting, stuff like that. But as I said, BIM was meant to do a lot more things than that. And some of those things are available now. So if we look at the 7 degrees of BIM, you can say this is pretty widely accepted by the industry. There are others who have expanded this. I think I've seen 10, 11, 9. I think I've even seen 14 degrees of BIM. These are the general ones. Right now, I can tell you there are software packages out there that can take BIM into and do scheduling and planning, can do cost analysis, can do energy analysis. So those are all software packages that are out there right now. There's also ones that get to more of the operations side of thing, where you're looking at asset management, visualization, and some capabilities like that. One of the nice things about all this is that, BIM was sometimes cost prohibitive to accomplish, and even these software packages took a lot of work to do that. A lot of these thresholds that made it cost prohibitive have been lowered, and implementation using various tools along with Revit and other things have dropped that bar to make things easier, more productive, and allow you to take in value and functionality from things that you might have not been able to before. So some of the impediments of BIM and taking value from those is how we implement BIM. And we can look at this graph. It's a pretty telling story of, people traditionally have used BIM as conflict avoidance and then to generate their 2D diagrams, taking views from different slices of the 3D model. They haven't really taken advantage of that. Each one of those objects within BIM can house a lot of different information, and a lot of intelligence and decisions can be made on that information. So because of that, you can see the traditional process here was causing projects to really be implemented BIM-wise more in the later phases of a project. It was a deliverable you had to do. And it allowed you went to your customers and it allowed you to say, hey, I've done a model. We're going to have less problems in the field because now we've done all this conflict avoidance and we've looked at things in a 3D manner. Sometimes that model would be transferred over to the contractor or a construction phase, and they would take a kind of a generic model and then turn it into a more detailed model for owners to look at and to make sure that construction went smoothly throughout the process. But if we look again at this graph here, we can see that that wasn't the most efficient way to do it. That if we use the information in the objects, if we do a lot of BIM up front, we can then do a lot of our design using these tools. If we look at BIM adoption and mandates, if I were to show you the graph in Europe, there would be a lot more. Adoption in the US has been somewhat slow. You can see here that government projects have mandated it for some time. There have been various clients who mandate BIM on their projects, but it's still not a universal thing. I will say I have many friends in the construction industry and engineering firms, and over the years I've seen them slowly migrate from AutoCAD to designing completely in Revit. And what I've noticed is that kind of somewhat changes industry per industry. You know, BIM adoption has been more around the building industry with MEP engineers than, say, water, wastewater, or other more industrial segments. So what are the barriers to this adoption? Well, I've kind of mentioned cost and implementation. You know, when you're going to build a model, you have to have objects to build it with, and that can take time. And where do you get those objects? Do you create them yourselves? If you do you have all that detailed information you want to spend, or are you just going to basically create some kind of 3D object with no real information in it? Can you go to manufacturers and get those models? And if you do, will that now apply to, you know, open source bidding, where you're allowing 3 manufacturers to bid and things are different sizes? So there's ways engineers have gotten around that, and there's ways that manufacturers have been able to help with that. One of them is you know, being able to import exact detailed models with information included, and then upsizing them a certain percentage to cover differences between manufacturers. A lot of people avoid detailed models at some point just because they feel like they don't want to design around one manufacturer versus another. But a lot of times that detailed information, especially in design build, can really lend to the efficiency of a project and bring down costs. And then allowing certain provisions within the contract to make up for the differences. Now, skill gaps, that has pretty much gone away. As I've talked to my friends in the consultant field, you know, it seems to be somewhat age relevant, that a lot of the younger engineers coming into the industry have started with Revit and have stuck to it. And so that they're more familiar designing and using Revit versus AutoCAD. And that shift, I've noticed the percentage of firms going completely Revit has slowly been increasing over the years. There's a lot of different ways people can implement it, a lot of different workflows. And I'd like to say, looking at the previous sketch here, we can see there's a workflow you know, problem in the industry of how we're actually using BIM software and the applications associated with it. You know, if we're really going to do BIM and we're really going to get efficiencies in the construction industry, we need to shift this back and do BIM earlier in the process. So a lot of the other things that have kind of stopped people from realizing the benefit of BIM is, you know, hey, you know, it's too small a project, I'm copying from job to job. There's a lot of excuses here, but in the end, you know, we look at the construction industry, and I'm sure everybody's heard this on the call, it's one of the least efficient industries in the world. You know, tech, computers, phones, everything has gained tremendously with technology. But when we look at the construction industry, we're doing things differently, but not at the rate other industries have improved. So it's about time where we're starting to look at, you know, now that we've dropped the cost of doing things and more complicated applications have been developed, that now we can take advantages and kind of rethink the workflows we've used in the past for design and implementing projects. So one of those is our LayoutFAST digital design tool that Schneider developed several years ago. And the original intent of this tool was, you know, layout fast. You know, what do engineers need to do quickly in the beginning of a project? You know, they need to decide the size of electrical rooms, what will fit. They want to lay out gear and other equipment pretty quickly to kind of get a ballpark estimate of what, you know, building envelope and other things that they'll need. So they also need access to information easily versus combing through catalogs and, you know, websites. So this tool was kind of originally named and developed around that, but also knowing that BIM was the future of the industry. And kind of as early adopters, you know, we put our eggs in the BIM basket and strode forward. And what we're going to talk about today is, you know, kind of details of this tool. There are other tools out there that complement this, and you can go and get BIM models the way many have been doing it from various websites and download centers as well. But like I said, that can take you time and effort. So what is the LayoutFAST tool? Well, basically before, if you were going to build your model, I'm sure, you know, you guys have done this more than I have, is it takes time to select equipment, get a model for it, insert it, get an object and insert it into your model. So they were trying to turn that time into seconds, basically being able to find equipment easily, select it with a couple questions, and then have a model to insert. So that lowers that cost of just entering an object into the model electrically. If we look at design, not only can we, with minimal effort, put things into a model, but now if you need to change the size, the rating of equipment, you want to have a model, or excuse me, an object that is easily manipulated so that you can change the properties of that object without having to go get more models or more information or manually enter. So it's not just having a BIM object, it's having a BIM object with a lot of good information in it. Also, when you have an object with a lot of information, you can do some things that you couldn't do otherwise. And some of the things we're going to show here is design automation, what this whole thing's about. And it's not just getting a BIM object and putting it into a model. That was kind of the first steps we did many years ago. So if we look at construction performance, a lot of people, if you're a contractor and you're required to do a model, you're going to be grateful because you can just easily select, Schneider's equipment in the model and put it in there and make a detailed model. And that's how the majority of contractors are using it today. But true story, I was visiting a customer, small electrical contractor in the middle of nowhere. And he did some controls contracting on the side too. And we were sitting down chatting at his office, and he basically said to me, oh yeah, I use LayoutFAST. I go, oh, they're requiring, BIM models on your projects? And he's like, no, I just use it for myself. And what he was doing is he was creating small BIM models of equipment lineups so that he could prefab as much equipment in the shop as possible. And that stopped him from, one, working out in the hot or cold weather, two, having to ship a lot of parts to a construction site and not knowing which parts he would need when he got there. Three, he'd be able to, if something came up like, oh, I'm missing this. Well, it's a long drive from the construction site to a supply house or back to the shop. So all the time wasted driving back and forth would be eliminated. And then he could also kind of make these models into instructions for labor with less skills and less supervision needed. So he didn't always have to send a supervisor and a couple others out there. He could kind of give this model as instructions and say, hey, here's all the prefab equipment, go install it out there. So it reduced a lot of his efforts and improved the quality on his projects. And when we look at operational, I said, we're starting to see this quite a bit. And if you look at virtual reality, augmented reality, if you look at a lot of the building control systems, a lot of the visualization that customers like to have, whether it's a showcase visualization in their showroom or lobby, or whether it's just looking at continued improvements to areas, it's nice to have a model to be able to import into other applications or to be able to use as a tool to go visit a whole facility without visiting the facility in person. So more and more applications are coming out around this. So I'd mentioned LayoutFAST is coming of age and a lot of things are changing. Where first it was mainly a object selection tool for your models to be able to insert things easily. It was also a easy way to get to catalog information, part numbers, essential design information. But we're taking it a step further and we're looking at design automation. So some of the things that are going to be demoed today is basically, taking your BIM model and being able to very easily generate a one line or a riser diagram, or looking at busway, being able to figure out, even a contractor or an engineer would love the busway tool because you can then easily draw a busway and get all the parts and pieces needed. So it's a huge time saver. We have two other tools we're currently in design for that are in this release. One is a quote system integration that allow people to send drawings to our teams or models to our teams and basically get a quote on them. And the other one is we're working with BSD SpecLink to integrate parts of their spec designer tools with ours. so that you can access specs by configuring equipment in LayoutFAST. It'll configure the specs too. So a lot of design efficiencies, a lot of automation, a lot of linking between quoting systems, models, selection tools, specifications, and now we have other companies that we own that also look at doing on the construction side, now linking BIM to costing, scheduling, and at the construction phase. So I want to go over this real quick. These are all links. I know this doesn't help you very much. At the end of this presentation, I will say how to get a copy of this PowerPoint in PDF. But if you want to take a picture, we'll put this link up in the chat and several other times on the screen. But this is a link to our portal. And I'll show you how to get to once you're in the portal, how to easily get to this PowerPoint presentation. And then you could just click on these white papers, blogs, training on the tool itself, videos about the tool, and other ways to access the tool and download it for use. Or you could also take a picture of this screen. Well, again, we'll put these links in the chat. But these are where you can download the tool. We have two versions. One, a plug-in version, which has certain capabilities slightly different than a web version. And the other web version, you don't need Revit at all. You can use without. And then you could basically either use it as just a tool by itself or get information, download it, and send it to your modelers for use. At this point, we're going to go into demonstration. Bowen's going to take over. Let me transfer that to him. And like I said, at the end, after the demo, we're going to have questions and answering sessions, and we'll also go over how to get access to the PowerPoint with all the links.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm currently trying to get my screen up here. Bear with me for a second. All right, so right now on the screen, hopefully you're seeing LayoutFAST web. I've posted the link, layoutfast.ac.com, into the chats here. So if you're one of those users who like to play around with the tool while the demo is going on, feel free to log in and get registered. Basically, the first time when you're entering LayoutFAST web, you're presented with this homepage here, and there's some information about some of the new features and download links. We have some trainings at the bottom and also communities and my Schneider links down below. So those are readily available to access. But one of the main things you'll probably need to download is, if you're a Revit user, we have this download Revit plugin right on the front. And then you can download the plugin and then install it within a few minutes. So mainly the operations on LayoutFAST web exist in this products tab. So once you click on that, on the top left corner, you're presented with the product page with all the Schneider products on the screen. Some of the quick features on the left-hand side are for filtering purposes. So we've categorized our product into kind of two different buckets. One is called the products only, one is called components only. So for your equipments that are the big lineups, switchgear, panel boards, UPS, transformers, things like that, those are considered the products only that will have the RFA 3D models. And we also have some components that are going inside of big equipment. These do not have the RFA model, but those are also available on the site. And down at the bottom here, you can filter based on category. So if you want to, look at transformers only, you can click on this tab. UPS only over here. So these are pretty easy for you to filter around. Another really cool feature we just had, you might kind of tell our website looks a little different than some of the slides earlier. We just released LayoutFAST 7.0 last Thursday at around midnight. So a few of us actually pushed this out and have been working on this new look and feel, so to speak. One of the cool features is this search part number bar, or you can actually search the product name. So let's say if you want to find the QD2 switchboard, you can just type the product name in that search bar. Or if you're looking at something maybe part number specific, you can start typing out the part numbers, and if it exists in our system, you can actually click on it and it'll bring you exactly to the page and have configured to this part number. So that's something cool about this part number feature. So now I would like to take you over to the page where you can actually configure your product. I would, I'm going to use the transformer one as an example first, and then I'll switch over to the QD2 switchboard. So when you hover over the product, you have the product overview and the configure product. The product overview is essentially just informational stuff about the product. You have your documents here, which is at the moment manually added by the data architects, but soon this will be automated so that it'll match exactly what you will find on sd.com, so that it will have all the documents. So if something is missing at the moment, please feel free to reach out to us and make a request, and we answer all your questions within about a day or two business days. And to actually do that, we have this need help button on the bottom right corner. So if you click on that, and if you need help, if you have any ideas or things don't look right to you, something's confusing, go ahead and fill it in. If you want to attach a screenshot of what you're seeing, our team here meets weekly and review all your requests, and we definitely appreciate any feedback. So now that you've looked at the product overview, you want to configure the product and get to your 3D model, you can click on this configure product button from the overview tab. Or if you're on the main page, you can go straight to your configure product button. Now that you're on this page, I know some of you could be LayoutFAST users in the past, and you're wondering why everything all of a sudden changed. I think for the better, a lot of the improvements were made, and this was only been happening since the past week. So all these changes have only been live for about a week. One key difference right now is the design phase. Previously, it was a bar across the top. Now it is simply a drop down. So let's say if you're at the early design, schematic design stage, and you don't really care about answering too many questions, and you just want to get some basic models, you can quickly change that to the SD stage and maybe select the KVA for this transformer. And there you go, you have your transformer. A lot of key information is in the middle here. You have your dimensions listed in the middle. You can download a data sheet using one of these buttons. I can show you really quick what that looks like. Some of the other buttons here, product drawing. If we have a product drawing for this part number, you can quickly get to it from this page. And one of the cool features on this is, let's say if you're working with other LayoutFAST users, or maybe even a colleague who would, who can check your work. I myself, as an apprentice, I want somebody to check out my work and make sure it's correct. And I say, hey, let me send this to him. And the recipient on the other end can open up the message from here, and they could say, okay, Bowen, give me a minute to check, things like that. And they could actually open up this configuration that was just sent to him, and it would open up directly to where you don't have to reconfigure the whole setup. This would be pretty helpful if you're in another design stage, if there are other questions in here, so that you don't have to click through everything. You're probably wondering, how do we get the RFA file? So from the web, you can simply hit the download button and create RFA, and that'll start downloading on the top, and then you will soon get a RFA into your download folder. The Revit experience is a little bit different. I would say it's a lot quicker in terms of getting that model into your space, but I'll show the Revit experience in just a second after we're done with the web here. Another thing we could also do is add to cart. So if you have multiple items in your setup here and you want to add them to the cart, you can hit this button, and now on the top left you can check out the cart and look at this and maybe download the bill of material and things like that. As you can see, the RFA file has finished downloading. You can open this file from your Revit and go from there. Before I jump over to the Revit side, one of the new releases we've had recently is it's called LayoutFAST. Essentially, you can lay out a busway system visually as well on the web without needing Revit. So that can be only accessed right now if you go to the iLine busway product. And let's say you've answered a few general questions about the busway system, and then now you're ready to configure the run. there's this button here in green that you can click on. That'll get you to the next view. And in here, this is kind of a 3D view of the starting of the busway system. So you can just start typing out, I want to create a 10 feet length. I want to maybe turn to the right. These are all possible, right? You just pretty much click around and then draw your busway system. And when you're done, as you can see on the right-hand side, it's filling out this, summary of what you've selected. And once you've finished, you can simply click complete, and you can go to the summary page to look at kind of this bill of material view. If you need to go back, you can simply use the breadcrumb on the top here. You can get back to the configure run. Maybe you've messed up, you want to start over. You can start over using this. So I won't go too deep into this busway fast, but this hopefully gives you a really quick look and feel of how you can create the busway runs on the web. So now I will switch gear over to the Revit side of work. If you already have Revit and also have the plugin installed, you should see this LayoutFAST tab on the top with all the buttons laid out. So how to get to LayoutFAST from the Revit side? Simply click on the product configurator, which will bring up a window on my other screen. And this is essentially pretty much the same as your web experience with a little bit of a key differences. So as you can see, it looks just like the web. It is just the web. So I want to go ahead and configure maybe this line up here and maybe answer a few questions and get to my section selection. So once I finish the general questions, I can go down here and maybe add a section here. Say it's individually mounted and I want a 1600 amp. So now the difference between the web and the Revit is you no longer have the download button. Since you're in Revit already, you can just hit the insert and it's going to ask you to name the equipment designation, put in a demo name, and you just hit apply. And right now what it's doing is it's capturing all the data, everything you've answered here into a BIM object, and it'll be inserted onto your project here in just a second. So as you can see, I have some previously laid out a model of UPS in the background, but I just dropped in the QD2 lineup. So pretty quick and easy, a lot faster than your web. From the web, it's once you open the RFA file, it'll open up another tab here, and then you can drop that model into your project. Let's say you made a mistake, you want to change something about this model. It could quickly be done. If you go back to the LayoutFAST tab on the top, you can click on this Modify Family, which will open up the window again, get back to where you were, and then you can change a few things about your setup that you configured. Say you need to lower your amperage to a different value. You can go ahead and select the section that you were on previously, change it, and go ahead and update. So that's kind of the experience from the Revit side. We've also added a few other features within LayoutFAST. One of the things that I would kind of just give you a quick look and feel is the one-line automatic one-line generator, and then also the riser generator. I won't go too deep in it as I won't have too much time, but basically, if you have your project and all your equipment's laid out here, you can click on the one-line generator, which it'll give you some information at the front to kind of let you know that, hey, some equipment were not connected electrically, so you might want to double check. So if myself here, I just go ahead and click OK and skip over that section. You'll start seeing the progress bar, and then the one-line diagram is currently being generated. And within a few seconds here, after my computer finishes this process, you should see a complete one-line diagram of what you just set up in the project. Mine's just taking a little bit longer than usual. But as you can see, this is your one line of this demo project that I was just showing. And this is just a snapshot of what you have just set up. If you go back and change something, you would have to click the one line again to update this view here. One cool thing about this feature is, let's say you want to edit one of these panels and you've made a mistake on it. You can actually quickly get to it And if I change my orientation here, sorry about that. It's one of these. It's this panel in the middle here. If you can see, I could change my discipline here to electrical, so you can get a better view. But from the one-line generator, I can quickly go to my panel and say I made a mistake. I go back to LayoutFAST, click the Modify Family, and edit that panel directly. And it's a pretty smooth workflow.
So one of the things you can do here, if you have a large enough screen or multiple monitors, is that you can keep that one line as a view up, and then use it for navigation around your model to easily get around to all the different electrical components. So that makes things, going from piece of equipment to piece of equipment very simple.
Exactly. So that's kind of the one-line generator. The riser diagram, it's similar to this one line. With the click of a button, it'll grab all the information in your project, and it's going to create a riser diagram view for you. And just like that, you have your riser diagram. Similar operation, if you change something in your project, you have to hit the one line again to update this view, since currently this is just a snapshot of my project earlier.
Yeah, and if you do get this tool and you want to try out these capabilities, and if you try it with your own project and you have a couple errors, one of the easy ways to do this possibly is just use one of the standard examples that comes with Revit. So in one of the Revit folders, I think that's what we're using right here actually, is one of the standard examples that comes with the software.
So that's all I have to show. Jeff, am I missing anything here? Anything else you'd like me to go over?
I think you're good. We have a couple more things we'd like to go over. If you do have any questions, please put them in the question bar here. I think I've answered a couple. One of the questions I got was basically is there a demo version of the software? This software is currently free, whether you get the web version or the Revit plugin. You do have to log in. I would suggest becoming a portal member, because the logins then transfer to all our different systems. But you can go directly to this and register and become a user here. I will mention that there are advanced features we're planning. So there might be a subscription-based model for the advanced features in the future, but the ones you currently see right now are available to use. They're very simple. Like I said, click of the button, whether you have Revit or not. The single line and the riser diagram feature are only available in the Revit plugin model, but the busway and a lot of the selection tools are available in the web model. Let me see if there's any questions. Doesn't look like there's any questions. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and wait a minute. Can you go from single line to drawing? I think we showed that. Can each of the drafting tabs be dragged to a separate monitor? I think so. I've seen it at least. Yeah, there you go. So a lot of times, if you have multiple monitors, you can just keep that open all the time and just click through your model as you want to change or update things or get to areas where you want to add more equipment. So this significantly reduces the effort in not only inserting a lot of your objects, but now if you do BIM earlier in a project and you kind of change your workflow on how you design, not only can you build a little single line or riser diagram that lets you actually work within Revit easier, but now if somebody wants to say, hey, give me a preliminary diagram of the project, you're like, bang, here it is. Oh, we made these changes. 30 seconds later, bang, here it is. So, not only does it help you in your design, help you in using Revit as a navigation tool, but it also gives you that quicker interface with your clients and management to kind of show them progress on a project.
I would like to add one thing Jeff mentioned about speed and ease of getting to your BIM object. The way we add products into LayoutFAST, it's very easy. I won't go into exactly how we do it, but we work directly with offer managers, and our backend system does not use the data architects do not need programming experience to add the products. Everything is logic based, and with the speed of getting something released is very quick. Some of the simple products would take maybe a few days to a couple weeks. More complex product could take a couple months. But if you're like a product configurator developer, you would know how long it would take for something like this to get released. We had an example of a customer who was looking for a product BIM object, and they reached out to the offer manager, and it was going to be a 2 to 3 week turnaround time before they get the actual drawn BIM object to them. But if that product was in LayoutFAST already, this user can get to that BIM object within just a few seconds. So one of the benefits of that is, anybody can easily get to your BIM object very easily without a really long, turnaround time.
One of the questions is, are the generated one-line riser diagrams are editable once they've been made? From my understanding, because it's been a while since I've seen this done, basically you would make a view and then draw on top of it. Is that correct?
So I guess what you mean by editable is, in a way, yes, you can edit it. Basically, once you've generated the one-line diagram here, this is just a snapshot of a couple minutes ago, right? If once you've made the edit in Revit, let's say your lineup here, this one line is not automatically updated with your change. You would actually just have to hit the one line button again.
I think they're looking to add separate notes and details on top of it.
Oh yes, you can export this and it'll just be, I guess, a PDF or some format. I'm not sure if you can just start drawing on this screen per se, but you could export this for you to edit.
Yeah, I think what somebody, and I'm sorry, our original presenter is not here today, but I think the way it was explained to me in the past is that you can basically incorporate this into a drawing and then draw on top of it. But you would have to, every time you updated the diagram, you'd have to update that. Okay, let's see if there are any other questions here. Any limit for the size of the layout diagram? Any limit for the data size?
Not quite sure what the question means.
They're wondering how big of a complex of a one-line diagram you can make. I know I've seen one 3 times bigger than what you have here at a minimum. And I think they've done some testing to a certain extent. We can try to answer that back in an email since you've submitted this question. I'm sorry, we don't have the appropriate people on the call today.
As far as what I know, if your project is really big, the one-line generation duration, it'll just take a little bit longer. As you can see for this example here, I think it took about, 15-20 seconds to generate. So smaller it is, the faster it is, the bigger it is, it'll just take a little bit longer for this progress to finish.
Another question, is this software for Schneider equipment only? So it is. It includes ASCO and APC equipment. It's mainly meant for the North American market using NEMA UL equipment, ANSI equipment. There is some IEC, but it's the UL approved IEC equipment here, or APC, which it doesn't really matter. We're looking at bringing this to other parts of the globe and putting in some other equipment. We've also had some of our distributors who would like to put some other equipment in there, but I don't think it'll be our competitors for obvious reasons. This is free software. You can, obviously you can use this to put in Schneider software, and if you have anything else, you can just import the models from them into your model. It's not preventing you from adding anything you want into your model. It's just, this is the easy way to do it with our equipment. And some people, what they do, they pull in our equipment and then they just bump the size up at the end just so that they can accommodate anybody's equipment if there are any size differences. They like a little wiggle room in size, so sometimes they'll add like 10 to 15% size to everything just to account for any differences.
Yeah, in addition to that, we are also doing some pilots with other manufacturers. So we've had Generac reach out to us because they want to add their generators into LayoutFAST. So that's something that is under development. To us, the data doesn't matter what product, as long as the data is formatted correctly, we can add the product in here.
So one of the questions, they like the cut sheet, easily available in LayoutFAST. Do they have other features or programs for helping selecting equipment? Like I said, LayoutFAST itself helps select equipment with the questions that, the top level questions that you'd ask. We do have some other tools for selecting equipment. We have easy selectors, which are on our website, and we are currently in development of another tool, which is probably a little bit down the ways. We used to have something, but we found it was a little bit too complex for customers to use because it mimicked what we use internally. But I don't want to give any dates or anything on that right now. Let's see if there's any other questions. If not, I probably need to share my screen real quick and show everybody how to get links. If you look in the chat, you'll see the links to the tool and to our website. I'm going to change presenter to me real quick and show my screen. Okay, so this would be a good screen to take a picture of. This first link, hope everybody can see the se.com/us/e2e. That's our expert to expert site. It's basically a portal you register for consultant engineers and designers or modelers, anybody. And basically what we have there is a lot of design guides, specifications. What's different from other partner sites, whether you're a contractor or anything else compared to ours, is that the one for designers has specific support, people who work with engineers. So it's not our normal customer support where you would get product information and or if you have issues with products or something like that. These are application experts with electrical distribution, and they're available via phone, chat, email, and even if you go to our forum here, the Electrical Engineering Forum, and ask questions there. I will place a copy of this PowerPoint in both of these forums. So if you go register for this website and you go to the homepage, you'll see this little block on the right-hand corner, or actually probably right in the middle. And you'll see we have 2 forum communities. And that's where you can post, ask questions. You can read some of the frequently asked questions that we've answered there. You can subscribe to it, whether it's for news or say you have interest in a certain aspect of things like regulations or arc flash. You don't have to subscribe to the whole forum and get notifications. You can actually subscribe to any label and just get any post on that in particular. And then we have a LayoutFAST user group where, kind of same thing, but devoted to this tool. A lot of the frequently asked questions about the tool are in there, like what versions of Revit work with it, and how do I, get training? Where do I get support? All those kinds of questions. If this is me on LinkedIn, Jeff M. Miller. Basically, if you go to that, find me on LinkedIn. Please connect. I try not to spam people with a lot of posts, and I just try to put things that are interesting, like webinars or newly released design guides and stuff like that. And let me check the questions real quick again. And I think that is all the questions. So I would like to thank everybody, including EasyPower, for giving us opportunity to go through this tool. Again, if I haven't mentioned it, this tool is free. You can download it, try it out. If you don't have Revit, just get the web version, play around with it. We have a pretty good support team, Bowen being one of them, and they're pretty responsive to requests, not only for issues that they find in the tool, but feature requests and everything they look at. They like customer feedback. We have a testing group of about 12 people we work with currently, and they give us feedback on a lot of the advanced features we're developing. So we appreciate all the help we've gotten from them. They've given a lot of input to this tool.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Bowen. And we look forward to future developments on the topic. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.